Welcome back, everybody. Tesseract LNO Fireside Chats. The last few episodes, we've been doing sprint episodes, just talking about different innovation teams and different sprints, getting projects from start to middle and hopefully to the end. In this conversation, we're kind of going back to the original side of our conversations and just reaching out to different Tesseract LNOs and how they're involved in the Tesseract space. Different projects that they've been on and how they help the force where they're at and just different things that they've been involved in with the Tesseract community. And today we have MSgt Heikell Perez, and I'll let you introduce yourself, Heikell, and where you're at and how long you've been in LNO and some of the different things that you've been
on. Thanks, Nate. So I'm out of this base called Biddle Air National Guard Base. It was known as Horsham Air Guard Station before, and then before that, it was part of the Willow Grove Air Reserve Station. I don't remember how long I've been in LNO, if I'm being honest. Just time just flies.
Yeah.
Some of the things I've been involved with, I think I had the opportunity to thanks to Tesseract, to attend like the AFMC supply tactics meeting. The first one was GS-15s and pretty much GS-14s, 15s, and SESs from around the country. And then a second iteration of that was like the middle, sort of the middle management piece of the Air Force. That was pretty cool. Some other things, I help out Georgia Rakes with like data stuff, and Blade.
So for those that don't know, can you just briefly describe what Blade is or intends to be and kind of what you've been doing behind the scenes with that?
Okay, yeah, cool. So Blade is a platform. It's a program office. And all it really is, it puts commercial off-the-shelf software, specifically like data, software, let's say Click, Databricks, Tableau's in there as well, something called Data Robot. So since we're moving to AI, the OSD, Office of Secretary of Defense, created this program office called Advana, and Blade is part of that Advana atmosphere per se. SOCOM is in there with Sparta, Navy's in there with Jupiter, Army's in there with Ares, Air Force Financial Management FM. They're creating their own program office in there called Faster. So it's like a whole ecosystem. And so right now, the current state is very static data, right? The future goal of this office as a whole is to train LLMs to use that data, clean the data, create language learning models. And obviously from there you go to like AI, right? Because I feel we're a bit behind the curve.
Yeah, I think just the data overall from a supply career perspective, we're quite behind.
Actually, I think Georgia wants to do something. Have you guys talked about digital twin?
Haven't even heard of it.
Okay, so digital twin is it's just as it sounds. You take a physical asset and you create a digital twin of it.
Okay.
And she's really trying to do something with KC-135s. And I used Blade to pull data, the issues and due outs from 2001 to 2021. So, she could use it for whatever she wants. And, it goes back to garbage in, garbage out. If the field doesn't enter the right information into a supply system, then when we want to use the data to create something better for them or to try to predict or to use it, to leverage it in any form, it's a lot more difficult and we're less likely to get it right.
I guess from your level and doing where you're at, now with this stuff, how can we go from data that's already in that is what it is to ensuring that it's clean data?
It just depends. So before every So let's say you're trying to build something, right? A learning model. You have to clean the data regardless. You go to the data, you find any fields that are null value. If you're a supply guy, you make sure that you check the SRD to make sure that these are KC135 SRDs. And then if you don't get the SRDs, actually, you can go a step further because org codes are linked to actually aircraft. Org codes, they have a field in there called an MDS field when you create org codes. So those are like the different ways you could probably solution out some of those data, some of the data, and clean it that way. Just making it pretty for to have something else consume it.
Nice. Hey, let's just take it back a little bit because you kind of said you didn't know how long you've been in LNO or involved in Tesseract stuff. How did you first hear about Tesseract, or how were you first engaged in it, and how did you get on board?
I'll call Barry. Barry was the I submitted something for Aether Sprint. That's right. Yeah, you're laughing because you know Barry. I submitted something for Aether Sprint. So I think as a career field supply, right, we're bombarded with things we have to do. And I don't understand to this day why we have all these reports everywhere, like D23, Q13, M14, M30, like DL4. I could go on and on. Yeah. That's back from the original SPSS, which SPSS actually came from the Army. So I'm like, why haven't we taken the time, and we should take the time to create something for the end user or for the field that they can go to one place and they can say, oh, I'm in central storage. And all the reports for central storage are there. Instead, right now, you go to Blade and you're like, you have to search for your report and using the find field in the top end. It's not very, I don't believe it's very, I don't know. It's not very forward thinking. I would say that. So I submitted something like that at Aether Sprint, and then Barry got me builder access to Blade. And then he pawned me off to Georgia. That's pretty much how it happened. So he just like passed the baton. He's like, hey, like, we didn't think your idea was, I don't know if Aether Sprint worthy was the right thing, but we still like it. And we know it's something for the field. Actually something for, if you're a maintainer, the Marine Corps uses Power BI, Nav Air. They use Power BI to look at the production as a whole. So they know, hey, these people have to have this training that's due this month. They're maintainers, right, out on the flight line. And so as soon as they see that at the beginning of the month, they're able to say, okay, these are the jobs we have to do. This is how many maintainers we have here. And they're just able to prioritize jobs better in the Marine side. And it's led to an increase in retention. Supposedly the Marines are happier. I don't know if that's true or not, but we have to start looking forward with technology instead of just doing things the old way.
No, that's a perfect answer. So what did that project look like on your end then? And if you could build a thing that the Air Force says, all right, cool, we're going to take it, what would it look like?
Number one, I think I talked to you or someone about this. It's about getting the requirements. So number one, the biggest problem is getting the requirements. Number two, we clean the data. So making the data fit the requirements, not making the data fit the requirements, but based on your requirements, you build out your different data tables. And the last part is your visualizations, because let's be serious. We have an iPhone or an Android, and everything's pretty. We like it because it's pretty. We like it because it works. And I think that's where we should be looking to. We should be looking to the features and making things that work and is intuitive for the field. Just very simple steps: requirements, data, visualizations. And it's overwhelming to do all three of them. I think I told you that as well. It's really overwhelming to go from requirements and then think about like, okay, I'm creating these requirements and then go to cleaning up the data and then go to visualizations. It's really, it's really screwy.
When you're making these types of tools or thinking of these different types of projects, I always like to ask the different people that come up with this stuff, what's the hardest selling point of, hey, I know we have a pain point. I know where the problem is. I have this idea. It's a little funky. There's definitely some red tape, but where's the hardest part to get buy-in to move forward? And what has been for you? Or has everybody
I would say on the data side,
yeah.
it's a lack of understanding and technology. That's what I would say. I think there's a true lack of understanding of the potential technology has. Just that. I think I talked to someone at ACC, and he said, "Hey, if you build it, like, I'm willing to test it out with some people in the field, because ACC does their different program a little bit different. Actually, they limit the is it the location codes or the different status codes? They limit the different status codes to specific ones, because they've noticed that individuals are hiding diffums using different status codes. So I was talking about it, and he said, "Yeah, look, if you're willing to build it, I'm willing to send it out to certain people to test it." And it's like that, getting testing and then getting feedback. So that the feedback loop, it's very important. And I think one of the problems with Blade or Click in that ecosystem is that there are restrictions to actually creating something and then submitting it to what's called a stream. On the left hand side, those options, they're all called streams, and there are restrictions. So you pretty much have to go to someone and say, "Hey, can you release this for me?" So in a fast development cycle, that's not very conducive to fast development. It's great for development. It's great that they're controlling some of those things, but if you're trying to do really quick development and you're trying to change things all the time, it's really hard. And then also think about the end user. If the end user is like, "Oh, there's a mistake here, I'm going to submit a bug," and then developer fixes it, developer releases it, but there's like a wait time in order for like the new Click app to get released. So it's like there are many different pain points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think what's been the easiest way to sell one of your potential solutions?
I think selling it to a wing commander, but there was still someone else in the wing. I hope they don't hear this. There was someone else in the wing who wasn't too happy with it.
Sure.
And like the individual was right. What happens after you leave? Who's going to do this maintenance, maintain the product after you leave? So yeah, they're totally right. Like I used some of the data lakes that were out there to create a near real-time umper, fitness, evaluations, just a holistic image for a commander. Imagine if you're a commander or first sergeant or a leader at any organization, and you were able to access the Power BI product, and it gave you information about your people and when anything is due. Which right now you have to go into the fitness program, then you have to go into what is the MyFSS. You have to go into like 10, 15 different programs to get this data. And it's great that those program offices have those programs for data input. But if I just want to look at the data, I don't want to ask someone to pull something for me. I just want to be able to look at it. So yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah.
You just described supply reports too, but on the whole organizational leadership level scale. Like,
Yeah, actually, there is a way, right? Where I think I did it. I think I showed you it in that product that I have, where it tells you, "Hey, next month this many doilies are due," and like that'd be amazing. If the inventory section, it knows automatically, like, okay, got it. Next month I have this many deliveries due. For planning purposes, that is amazing. Yeah, or even I think in the future when we get all the ILSS data, the DDL. Imagine if you go on Blade instead of having to go into ILSS just for the DDL. Yeah, like there's just like the opportunities and potential is there. Or even I'll tell you something, you're a PECAF. The how goes it? You can automate the how goes it. You can automate that report, by the way. You can automate it and then insert it into a slideshow straight into Blade. Click has that option. Like one of the options in Click is, use this visualization in a slideshow in a slideshow. So no more updating PowerPoints. Yeah, imagine you just refresh the date. Imagine you just open the app and you go straight to the PowerPoint side of it and you just export it as a PowerPoint. It's beautiful. Again, technology. I know I'm being optimistic.
Oh, I love it. So I'm gonna definitely hit you up when I go to work so you can show me how to do that. Because I, like many people in the field, not just our career field too, but we spend so much time just putting something into a spreadsheet that's already available, just so it's a little bit more prettier for a presentation. And if you can just reduce that by clicking a couple buttons, because like I said, the data is already there. And as you mentioned, it's not just our career field, right, that does this. We have so many different programs and offices that are good products. It's just when you need to look at an entire enterprise or a whole section, squadron, whatever it is of compiled data, that's where we miss the mark and we don't have the tools to create a holistic data presentation that's digestible.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree, and it's hard. It's hard as well because so a lot of these systems, Click, which it's one of the systems in the Avana it's a system in the Avana ecosystem. These are mainly used for financial data. And so, it's really hard to take something that was created originally for like financial data and metrics and say, okay, how do we use this for supply data? Or, how do we make it digestible? How do we make it pretty? You honestly, dude, you just need a product that you want to look at because you enjoy looking at it.
Yeah.
It sounds like weird, but we need that. That's where we're at right now.
No, you're not wrong. It's not diving too off topic, but I talked to the owner of the gym that I go to, and one of the reasons he says he can get or what works for him is the website presentation. Obviously, we're in Hawaii, right? So people want to work out on their vacation, so they'll type in whatever buzzwords into Google, and it'll pop up. But the moment you have a website that pops, if it's not, like you said, like presentable, I won't say, in a somewhat pretty manner, right? It's got to be appealing to people when they open it, right? For lack of better words, It's got to be appealing. Like it's got to look nice. It's got to have function. And then it's got to be able to, get the user to where they want to go in X amount of steps before they give up and say, well, this is too hard.
Yeah, it's actually, just quick story. So Google has someone every time they make a change to their search to like their main website. They have someone that sends them. I forget if it's how many characters they have or how many words they have. I think it's characters. So every time they've changed like the actual google.com page, someone emails them with the number of how many characters they now have on the website. Because it's like, it's interesting. And for user aesthetics, it really does matter.
Yeah.
You remember SPSS when the green screen?
Yeah, I am that old. I do. And then, we talk about functionality. That thing was, I don't know how people, of course that was, you don't know what you don't know, but to have to navigate inputs one page at a time, it's crazy. But it reminds me of, I don't know if you've seen the movie Almost Famous, but It's about
No.
it's about this kid that he's a writer for Rolling Stone, and he follows a band around, and he owes Rolling Stone a story. So he's in New York, Rolling Stone's in San Francisco, and the editor calls him and he's like, and this is the 70s, right? And the editor calls him, he's like, "Hey, I need a rough draft of your story." And the kid's like, "Oh, I'll get it in the mail." He's like, "No, no, the hotel has a fax machine, and the best part is one page only takes 17 minutes." Yeah, you think of that now, right? Could you imagine waiting 17 minutes for a page of product? And now, we get to first world problem, uh, the the prettiness of a website.
Yeah. Yeah. It's. Yeah. No, you're totally right. Totally right. Yeah.
So, what type of are these? What other type of stuff are you working on now? Are you still working on Blade data products, or is there something you're going to offshoot into anything else?
So that log HUD thing that I told you I was working on, I kind of it was a bit overwhelming, so I took a break in it because I was doing both requirements, data, and visualizations.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm using so Vault is one of the data lakes, right? Used by 15 alphas, the 1515s. Those are like officer FSC and civilian FSC. And I'm actually trying to automate the original report that I created for my base, and I'm trying to get historic data. So let's say, hey, like LRS EPR completion is at like 90%, and then next month it's going to be at 92%. So yeah, I'm trying to automate that process and then find a way to push it into Power BI and automate that too, where I don't have to be um, I don't have to be in control. I don't have to do any updates to anything. So yeah, that's what I'm working on. It's a product called Data IQ. It's really great. They're actually trying to get into the Havana or Blade ecosystem. Um, we had a conversation with their customer service about it. They do large language models in their program. It's a lot more like Click. So it's like click and play. It's not you can know coding if you want to do everything in code you can, but it's also very if it's a low code solution similar to Power Apps. I think in Power Apps I have that's another thing I have to work on is an in and out processing checklist in Power Apps, where everything is just digital and no more paper. Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of do both with virtual and PF.
Yeah, like virtual, like out processing, right? You can only do out processing with virtual MPF, but you couldn't do in processing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So no, and Power Apps is great because you can. There's a guy, I forget his name. Ocampo at the 413 Flying Test Squadron. He's like a genius when it comes to Power Apps. He created a GPC program where all the GPC requests is done in Power Apps, and you don't need a form. Like just no paper. Yeah, it's great, right?
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, just in and out processing checklist, automating that wing, um, that like wing like visualization dashboard, which yeah, it's just a lot of data and yeah.
Have you always been interested in the data side? Like, has that been your thing since you joined, or how did you discover well, at least I'll say a passion, sure, unless you want to change the word.
Dude, so number one, I'm an immigrant, right? I came to this country when I was 7. And I didn't have a computer until I was like 18. So like I had no idea about data or coding or anything, which I'm now, at 35, 36, I'm getting into. Not really. If you remember Discoverer, I used to very lightly dabble in Discoverer. And then when LimZV came out, if you've heard of Kevin Love, him and I used to talk a lot about like the potential of LimZV. and like the things you could do, you couldn't do. I think LimsDV, I really got into it. But even in LimsDV, you didn't have the customization that you have in Blade. So I would say, in essence, Blade is much better for the end user while not being as easy. So LibsDB in the back end, people never saw it, but it connected all the tables for you. It did the SQL coding for you when you requested, let's say, your 101 item detail record and then your kit detail record. In the back end, it's called business objects. It was doing all that coding for you. So you as an end user, you never saw it, and it was great. But it did have some limitations, I would say, for people who wanted more customization. So yeah, I guess no real time frame to answer your question. Finally, no real time frame when I got interested in data. It's just I just know data is powerful, and I think I want to come to a point where, hopefully, if I'm still in by the time, if I can do it before I get out, where leaders can just go somewhere and click on, like, let's say, a project or an application, and it tells them, it's like, hey, red, this is bad. Hey, like orange, this is going to be bad, or like green, this is great, you're good. Inventory. Let's say if your inventories are due, right? Let's say the first column is like, hey, this is how many you're overdue already. This is how many it's due this month, and then this is how many you're due next month. So, like, how can we do that for the leader? Because as we know, technology changes so fast that we have to start coming up with products that can be actionable for leaders.
I couldn't agree more with you. Like, to have something that filters through what the end users need to get done on the tactical level, but be able to put that in a presentation to show the importance to the decision makers above you to manage people, to manage programs. Like, it's vital. Like, I can't stress that importance enough. Man, we're talking about alleviating so much pain points from a lot of people. So, like, that's the goal. How do you take data, filter it so that it doesn't become a second job to the people that need to do the work to clear the data?
Yeah. So I think one of the only ones in that report that you can't automatically do is the delinquent documents, because some columns are missing. So the table is there in SPSS for delinquent documents, but the data hasn't been pipelined or cleaned and brought into Blade. But I think most of the other things are there. Overdue shipments, because that's a detail record. It's just, if the detail records are there, that's the important part.
All right, let's back up a little bit again, just for fun, because as we're talking, I learned a little bit more about you. Like, obviously, and then, as you kind of mentioned, you just didn't join the Air Force and be like, I'm going to figure out data in this career field that I'm in. What were some, I guess, stops along the way in your Air Force journey where you're doing the work and you're like, well, this could be better. This could be automated. Here's an idea, or, things like that.
It's, I don't know if it's fortunately or unfortunately, it's been like that my whole career. So, I'm never, even in my life, right? I'm never happy with the status quo, with the way we're doing it. I think anything could always be done better. So it's always been like that. So there's never been a one point where it started. I've just always been like that. I'm programmed, hardwired, use your whatever you want.
Well, that's awesome. What's your experience been for your Air Force career? Let's talk about that a little bit. When did you join? Not a traditional active duty guy. So what's that journey kind of been like for you?
I joined in 2007. Then I went to McGuire. I stayed there for about, something happened, right? I had a very bumpy career before I got out. That's what I would say. I think my first 4 years were great. And then after that, something happened, and and it's kind of one of the reasons I got out, actually. You know, but it's the best and worst thing that's ever happened to me, if I can be honest.
Yeah.
Very low point in my career, if not the lowest point. And then I think there was someone I was deployed with in Kuwait, and I was getting out, and the dude was like, "Hey, come work for me. There's potential for AGR in the future." Which, if people listening don't know, AGR is essentially active duty orders in the Air National Guard, and you never move anywhere. You still deploy, you still do some of the stuff, but you never move anywhere. So and then I got into the Guard, and I've been in the Guard since like 2014, 2015. Yeah. And actually, when I was signing my contract the same day, the chief of AFPC called me and said, "Hey, we messed up your WAP score. Would you like to come back in or not?" And yeah, I pretty much told him no. But yeah, so I guess I've been one of those who's also had their WAP scoring messed up. And now I do everything I can to support like really airmen who I think should have stayed in the Air Force, or I think need support. There was someone actually. There's an airman, Horton. So I had an equipment channel. I didn't tell you about this. I had an equipment channel where I used to help anyone and everyone who came into the team's channel. It was named it was like Air Force Equipment or something. That's the name of the channel.
Yeah.
And I used to help everyone, like a bunch of people from the Guard. Some people, if active duty people found it, I would help them too. I would answer like questions about equipment, whatever they wanted. And then put out like little guides on stuff, and put out like the monthly newsletter that the A4 used to print out. I would simplify it because it was, I would simplify it for the field so they can understand and digest it. So there's one person there, Horton, right? And Horton was at a base on the East Coast. I'm not going to name the base. And this person was working equipment alone, a senior airman, an A1T or senior airman, working equipment alone. No, and never got any help from their leadership at all. Like, you should not be a senior airman and working equipment. Sorry, I don't care. And then and then something was asked on the 2S Facebook group a while back. I answered it, and then I forget if she liked what I wrote or if she posted about it. And then I hit her up. I was like, "Hey, how's it going? Where you're at now?" And she told me she got out because she never felt supported by her leadership, and was just let out to dry because she was an older airman. So I want to help her do a resume to, like, hopefully maybe she can get a contracting job. So I called some people up, and hopefully a remote job somewhere or something. I just think, like, really good airmen. I wish I wish she would have told me beforehand, because I would have tried to do anything I could. Like, I would have called up anyone, because I want our Air Force to succeed. Sorry, I rambled.
No, that was the best part. That was great. Honestly, too, dude. Yeah. Like, here's the thing, right? Like, and thanks for being vulnerable there. Like, to face adversity and then to make a decision to come back in, and then you're still making products and decisions and ideas, not just for individuals, but an entire career enterprise. Like, I can't commend you enough for that. Like, it is so easy to face any type of a setback and stop, or just to do something else, or just to burn it down in your mind and just give it up. And the fact that you found a different way, that's a testament to you. And obviously the Air Force is better for it, like, just because of where you're at and what you're doing. So Um, just thanks for that, man. And I mean, just look at the impact you're having. It's gigantic.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think I would have been able to do this at active duty. And if what happened didn't happen, I don't think I would have been the person I am today. So, I mean, it's good and bad, right? Yeah, I
Right.
would have been just another fast burner who made like E7 in like, was it 12 years or less?
Yeah.
I would have been one of those people. And now I look at those people and, they're great people. But I say to myself, I'm like, what experience do they have in supply? If I come up to them with if an airman comes up to them with a complex problem, can they solution the problem with the airman?
Yeah.
And and I'm not saying a tech sergeant or master sergeant has to know everything, but I think I do think, and I still do, when we focus so much on WAP scoring or promotion testing or anything like that, the Air Force is great, but our airmen need people who are technically knowledgeable at the field level, because once you're technically knowledgeable, you can break down for the airmen why what they do matters.
Yeah.
Dude,
Absolutely.
I had a supervisor, Tia Deese. She was great. You talk about someone who, when I asked for help, she used to curse me out. It was back, yeah, it was back before, it was back like right before. Yeah, it was about 14 years ago or something. Yeah, 14, 15 years ago. And she would tell me, okay, go back and find it in the reg every time,
Mm-hmm.
every time. And it's the best thing. It's like, it was the best and worst experience. But now, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me.
I used to have reg finder supervisors too. Oh, I would get so mad because I'd be like, I don't know what I'm looking for. But that was kind of the point, you know. It forced you to go look.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of miss it. Like, we don't have that type of supervision or leadership anymore. Sometimes when they post questions on the 2S Teams channel, I'm like, have you tried looking at the reg? Yeah, I think when I first started posting on there, I started saying at the beginning, I was like, yeah, this is in like this reg. You can go look it up. And people didn't like the answer, obviously.
No, no, they don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, people give the AFIs and manuals and stuff a hard time, but there's a lot. I mean, more often than not, once you find it, it'll lead you in the right direction. It is hard to navigate through it. I'll give them that.
Yeah. I think, I propose this. I forget where I proposed this, but I think our regs should move to a wiki format, because we're still in the age where our regulations get updated on an annual basis. And they have these working groups to update the regulations from every MAGCOM and from field agencies like AFDW. Yeah, like a wiki format where you can update the reg in near real time. You don't need someone to open up a Word document and make sure the formatting is like perfect for a PDF file. Yeah, and then you could have along the chain, just like when you submit I think it's an 847, you could have each MAGCOM entity just literally, hey, yeah, I verify this. I believe this is legit. I think we should do this. And then write little notes and then save it for the future. I think right now, a lot of the changes we put into our regs, I don't know if we actually establish the rationale or save anywhere. I mean, probably do save it somewhere. We don't save why we made that change. Yeah. Yeah. Wiki format for the reg. I love it. I wish we did that.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we can catch up on. All right, Heikell, as we kind of wrap up here, and we were talking a few products that you've been working on. Are they available now? How can people in the field access them? Can they reach out to you or Tesseract to start using some of these things?
Look, if you want to access them or if you want to be involved with it, send me a message. And really, all I need is for you to help me come up with the requirements. And I can do the building easily, and maybe someone else help me with the visualizations. But I'm willing to release some of what I have. And if there's a mistake on there, I'm willing to make the change. And, maybe I'll talk to Georgia to release it on the Tesseract stream, right? I know that there's a debt in ACC Debt 4, who does data analysis. The Power BI file, I sent them the Power BI file for the commanders reports that I was telling you about earlier. So I'm willing to send anything to anyone, whatever they need. I even found a way to download files from the Blade ecosystem, pretty simple. So if you're like, hey, can you create a different listing? And I just go to a link every day and I download it. Like, I'm willing to be open to some of those things. But yeah, if I could get help with coming up with requirements, that'd be great.
Sounds awesome. Well, thanks again, Heikell. I appreciate your time, man. Like I said, I'm going to hit you back up later today and we'll go over some of this stuff for different presentations.
Any references to trademarked, copyrighted, or protected products or services, such as books, movies, or businesses, are used here for the limited purpose of education and professional development of Air Force Airmen. If you have any questions, please contact us at www.tesseract.af.mil.